missed it.
Hi. Oh, yeah? Well, Jay Sorensen, yeah. All right. Hi, Jay. How are you?
Hello.
We're hanging out again today. You know, we got Frank Stallone hanging around waiting to get on the air with us, too, if we ever can make it. But he's got 175, 200,000 clicks. I've got 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
Maybe 6.
That's about 2 more than me.
Yeah, I got the deadly dozen. Well, I'm down in Florida, and we have the hurricanes. We're running out of alphabet. You know, I mean, we're down to the N word now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
not that word. Yeah.
We should.
But we're going to be recycling again. We'll be up to the F pretty quick. And
excellent.
that would kind of describe it. But I've been peeing Gatorade. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Are you guys? Where are you?
I'm in West Los Angeles, near Westwood, UCLA, not too far from there.
Oh yeah. Oh well, you know, I think I keep thinking of you as being a Jersey guy.
I did live in. That's where I met Jay. I did live in Jersey when I had my band Valentine. I lived in Trenton, and before that, when I was a kid, and my mother got divorced, I grew up in Maryland, but my mother got divorced and moved to Philadelphia.
Wow.
I thought maybe Long Branch, because that's where
No, I wish. I like Long Branch. I actually like New Jersey. I had quite a bit of fun in New Jersey because that's, where, when the whole, my first album came out with the group and Rocky, it was all that time. So it was kind of interesting to be there at that time.
Well, you got time now to do another album, do The Eye of the Storm. The Eye of the Hurricane.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's funny.
Right now.
I forget, when I was a kid, weren't hurricanes named after women or guys?
Yeah.
Well, we had a himicane. There was one.
Yeah. But I remember in the 50s, weren't they were they guys' names or women's names?
Women. I think they were women.
Yeah.
I think
they had some guys. They put some cross winds in there. Dressers.
Cross-dressing wind, yeah.
Yeah. So you're up there in where you are is safe from the fires. We should tell everybody.
I am close. Yeah. I'm safe from the fires. I am not safe from the other actors and actresses. There you go.
And the water in the Beverly Hills water. That's all terrible. About really Erin Brockovich is still fighting for that. She wants to get and I'm good friends with her. She has a campaign. Well, she's always got something going, but she's one of those activists. She's like Barbara Streisand and The Way We Were. There's always going to be something. But she's working on the clean water. And I said, when I was in LA, as I recall, we used to get our water it came from Nevada, but originally from Colorado. So when I worked on KOA in Denver, I put a sign in the men's room and I said, please flush the toilet because LA needs the water.
And guess what? It hasn't stopped.
No.
You lived in LA, Jay?
I never did.
Jay, you didn't live in LA, but
no.
Joey did, right?
Joey did, yeah.
Yeah, well, Joey did a couple of tours of duty in LA. The last time was Palos Verdes. So I was there when we were at. I worked at 20th Century Fox, and we owned Marine Land. Which, at that time, 20th Century Fox was into real estate. That's where Century City was the back lot. And it became the Century Hotel, Century Plaza Hotel, and all of that.
I actually live across the street from Century City.
Well, all of that was the back lot.
It was all the back lot, and they had to sell it off, like when the TV started coming in, and Cleopatra kind of bankrupted them and all that stuff like that.
Well, actually, that's kind of a true story. The rest of it is Hello, Dolly. With Barbara Streisand and Walter Matthau. That was another nail in the coffin. There were a lot of them.
That was a clunker, huh?
Oh, yeah, it was. But they kept the billboard up like it was, on La Brea, as if we were celebrating something.
It's really amazing when you think how big that battle lot was from Santa Monica Boulevard all the way down to Pico. Huge. That's a lot of property.
Well, I could tell you a lot of stories about it. One of them is my favorite is Barry White, because I worked with Barry and I was looking for a place to shoot an album cover. I did the Ecstasy album, and we won a Grammy for that one with Barry. But Barry wanted to have, he thought of himself like a Frank Sinatra. Barry and we have a history where we used to, I was breaking his chops every day.
Yeah, of course.
And he and I we went round and round. But I said to him, there's a place in the studio lot that's called the French Alley. And it's got that lamppost that's Sinatra in the hungry years, the lonely years, whatever the hell it's called. And I said, Barry, that would be you, like Sinatra with the hat like that,
Yeah.
And Barry says, that's an asshole thing. I'm not going to do that. And then I said, well, let's go have lunch at the commissary. He says, I'm not going to sit with that. And I called Dennis Stanford, was the chairman. He called him a name. He said, I want elephant money. If I get elephant money, then I'll have lunch. I said, you're going to meet Shirley MacLaine, and you'll be with Annie Bancroft. I want elephant money. So we kept going around. So finally, I got tired of ushering him everywhere to find an album cover. And we got outside the studio walls, and there was a Century Plaza Hotel with that big water fountain in front.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't we have you on top of that water fountain and have that water, and you look like the world's largest douche. I said, right. That's your album cover.
Yeah, he was not known for great album covers.
Then I wasn't known for being kind either.
That's right. But
that was a bad time. Now your brother was a United Artist. He was.
Yes, he was. Well, and they shot it, but it was really weird because it was United Artists, but we were I would see him on the MGM lot.
MGM lot, yeah, because they had the best optics. They had the best optics in the world.
Yeah.
To be truth were told, I did all the Star Wars opticals at MGM, which made them mad because we owned Deluxe, which was a processing color company. Yeah. And I used the Disney Artists. Ironically, I never knew they were going to actually eventually buy the film, or the whole package. So now I did the work at MGM in Culver City. That's where I did. Now it's a car lot.
I'll never forget this day. I was visiting from New Jersey, and you have to understand, I lived like in the ghetto. I lived on Hermitage Avenue in Trenton, so it was pretty funky, and it's really weird.
Oh yeah, when
they would see a limo come up to my dumpy apartment, because the only time you ever saw a limo in that neighborhood was a funeral, or something like that. There weren't people getting picked up in limos in those days. And I remember I was sitting he was having a meeting. I was like kind of in the foyer. And he walked out, and I walked out with all the people. This is after Rocky. He goes, well, there goes my Oscar. I said, what happened? He goes, Peter Finch died. And that's because he was going to win the Oscar. There's no doubt about it. And that's what happened.
Well, it's a lovely story, the whole story of your family. Your mother used to listen to me on the radio, I'm told.
My mother will be 99 years old and still drives sharp. Unbelievable. I'm 99. How long were you in Philly, Joe?
I was in Philly twice, WIBG and WFIL at different times, different time
What
periods.
year were you were you there with Jay Cook and Bill Wright Sr.? Or was that
well, they were different. Bill, I was at Wibbage where Bill Wright Sr. was, and Jay Cook was at WFIL for that Boss Radio thing. That's a whole different deal.
High Lit was Wibbage, right?
I was there with High Lit and his brother Toy.
Yeah. You know what? I got to tell you, man, that was a great time. I used to do hops with Long John Wade.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I mean, we won the battle. Well, we were in the Battle of Bands in 1967 with my group. And so we went all over the city. It was put on by Parks and Recreation. So they'd have a flatbed truck, and Jay Cook was usually the announcer or one of the boss jocks at the time. We were teenagers, And we really won it. Even the people that won thought we won, but it was, it was a different time. But it was, what a great time. I mean, that is the radio I love. I mean, I liked it when when the jocks could pick their own stuff and they were in the program director.
Even when they had the big formats, as Jay knows, I still played my own music. I defied it all because I never liked that whole idea. I like to be independent. I mean, that was the whole idea, was to play artists you liked.
Yeah. Well, that's what made the boss jocks, because they all had personality, their own. What's really funny? When I do concerts and many albums that I have done, they're all a little different. I said, well, I grew up in an era where you would hear Under My Thumb by the Stones, and next Dean Martin, Everybody Loves Somebody. Then They're Going to Take Me Away by Napoleon, and then Frank Sinatra singing Strangers in the Night, and then the Lovin' Spoonful doing, it was so eclectic. That was so great. Well, Winchester Cathedral, goofy stuff,
We used to get everybody for the record hops. That was in lieu of payola.
They were the best.
Except I wanted the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. But,
couldn't get that.
You don't always get everybody from Columbia.
Yeah,
Jay, when did you meet Frank? When did you and Frank become
I met
friends?
Frank when I worked on WPST 97.5 at that time. And the studios were in downtown Princeton. And it was right next to the cemetery where one of the presidents is buried. I forget which one. They all look alike.
Woodrow Wilson or something like that.
No, actually, he's not buried there. He's not buried. It was
maybe they put his statue there. I know they took it down.
No, it was the guy.
Oh yeah. I remember the sign: "Make funerals great again."
That's right.
Anyway, and Frank was involved with. We had one of those contests,
That's right,
where the station would pick 10 people, and they would end up on an album. And I met Frank when they were pushing the group Valentine. I can't quite remember the name of the song. I think
it was either "Take You Back" from Rocky or "So Sad to Break Up." One of those songs.
It was it was before Rocky. It was a little before that. You and I used to go eat Chinese food down the street and get pizzas and stuff. We used to just talk about music, and I loved that you, as a musician, were so into the radio end of it. Which,
I loved it.
Which doesn't exist anymore. And that's the point that you were trying to make, and Joey too.
I mean, Jay had a kind of an open door policy, which you don't have anymore. We're like artists, we're friends. We just pop in the studio and, start talking. Sometimes we're a little stoned, but what can I tell you? I mean, it was the 70s.
Yeah.
We were thinking all right. But I mean, you have to understand for us, I mean, I grew up, I'm 70 years old. So I grew up in the 50s in the birth of rock and roll and radio was the thing. Everyone had a transistor radio. Everyone listened to baseball games. So, I mean, the radio really was incredible. That's why when I go on Sirius, I listen to classic radio channel. It's all the old radio shows, and they're great, man. I mean, even into the 50s, they still had live radio. It was, live radio like theater, like Gangbusters and shit like that. It was great.
Yep.
I used to work for the Scotti brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And so I know you have a relationship, and Ben,
I do. I love
Ben it. And Ben took care of me when I was between pictures, when I didn't have any money anymore and I wasn't famous anymore.
You mean that time.
And so, and so, Ben furthered it. He made me more unfamous.
Yeah. Well,
he was great.
They were great. They were great. They were really good at what they did. Good promotion guys. And I still talk to Ben all the time. He's 80 some years old, but they're still. It's tough for them because they're retired. Tony's not, but Ben is, and he has like nothing to do, so he's like crazy. Not that he wasn't.
Well, a little bit of a background just for those. Tony was an actor in Valley of the Dolls.
That's right.
And he married the star, the movie star, and he also then got divorced and married Mike Herb's daughter.
That's right.
Sister Carol. Yeah. And they ran MGM Records.
Right.
Now, when they ran MGM, Mike Herb was also lieutenant governor of California and a Republican.
Yes, he
was. While
was.
The governor, Jerry Brown, was a Democrat.
Yep.
So you got a young guy, he's 26 years old, and he's a lieutenant governor, and he couldn't wait for Governor Brown to leave town so he could sign all these bills as a Republican.
That's right. And he had Herb Records. And I remember Ben ended up being a promotion guy for MGM Records at one time.
Yeah, well, we all did. We all worked there. Remember Tad Dow? You remember?
I know. I saw Tad just a few weeks ago. I see him. Same guy, has never driven a car or owned a car in his life.
No.
Still takes cabs.
And he said that this is a promotion. Is to get records played and to have the music industry move the way it did in radio. He used to say, I'm a marketing expert on the retail level.
I remember he was involved in Bachelor's 3 in New York when Joe Namath had that place.
Joe needs a facelift. He's on that thing for Medicare right now. And
he doesn't look like Joe anymore. He looks kind of, his hair's kind of, he's kind of got the Sharpay thing going. And
those are the three guys that Dennis Ganem and who were the other? There were the other two. They had Fabergé, remember, for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of Cleveland. Cleveland was a popular music place.
Who was the guy? Was Dick Biondi in Chicago?
Yes.
Biondi.
Yeah, but before that,
Yeah.
He was in Buffalo before that.
He was a big boss jock too. I remember. I mean, that's what I miss. I mean, I remember all the Reverb and Murray the K and Cousin Bruce. Oh, good. Even in Wibbage and WFIL, all the Reverb, and it was just so great.
It was.
Really, we spent most of our time in the car as teenagers. So that's what we did.
Well, it's now a Christian station. You know that WIBG call letters mean I believe in God. WIBG.
Really?
But they don't have those call letters anymore.
No, but I was at WKBW, which is well-known Bible witness.
Yeah.
And I was always religious. And incidentally, speaking of that, the Pope has just congratulated Jerry Falwell's family for taking the heat off of priests.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, look at happy Jerry Falwell Jr., boy. Not a good one.
Oof.
No, well, I mean, you got to stay away from pool boys.
You got to stay, you know what? I mean, what's going on out here? I mean, it's just, who wants to date anymore? I mean, you have a bad date with a girl and all of a sudden the Me Too movement's chasing you around. You know what I mean?
Well, you can't touch anybody.
No, you can't do anything. And you know what's funny? It's like a lot of people are suffering from that. Like, these young kids, they're like so frustrated. I said, man, boy, you missed the best times, dude. You missed the 60s. The summer of love, burning of the bras and stuff. It was a lot of fun, crazy. But now it's just, I mean, I went, I go out, so I'm sitting there, you'll see these beautiful girls all sitting there like texting like this, not talking, not communicating. And so I walked up to one girl and I said, who, let me ask you something, man. You're filled with a bunch of handsome guys here in Hollywood, young guys your age. Who are you texting? My girlfriend. I go, where is she? She goes, she's over there. I mean, I said, and I'm looking at all these like young, buffed, good-looking guys. I'm like, wow. Little different than Good Time Charlie's, where I used to play with Charlie's brother. I mean, but we did have dialogue. That, a lot of these younger kids, I hate to sound like my parents, but a lot of them don't really have a rap. They don't have social graces at all. It's kind of sad, right, Jay?
Well, they better have the vaccine we wanted was for the clap.
Yeah,
I mean, back then.
Maybe they should try that now. Maybe it might work.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Jay, we got your friend Frank. Jay loves you, Frank, and he always.
I've always loved Jay.
He loves he loves your music.
Yeah.
So that we should say. Yeah. So that you don't have to think that we're riding on your brother's coattail, because you were doing the music before your brother had a hit film. And I just want to mention it. I want to mention that you already were really good at music before you had bigger fame in the family, because it's all relevant.
Hey, John Oates of Hall & Oates played in Valentine in his band.
He did.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And producer was Johnny Madera.
Produced Hall & Oates' first record, and then Tony Camillo produced Valentine from.
Wow.
And who was one of Tony's best friends? The Midnight Train to Georgia. You're looking at
it.
Oh, that's right. That was his big, and he was a lovely guy.
He also did Eric Carmen. Can't Live Without You.
Okay.
He did the arrangements on some of those.
Yes, he wrote the song too. He co-wrote it. He's an artist, and also he was the white guy at Motown. You remember that?
He just passed away, man.
He just died
2 years ago.
He was a really nice. He was a really nice guy, and I remember in Somerville, New Jersey. That's where we recorded our album.
Right.
That's
it. In his home.
In his home in the basement. But it was a lot of fun. You'd see Tommy James would drop in. It was it was kind of nice in those days. It was very homey, very comfortable. Of course, we did some recording on RCA in New York City. But what was the greatest thrill when I was like a young kid, teenager, that you would sit there with a reel tape you made of your demos. I mean, there was no production value. And I would just walk into all these record companies like, whatever, Ode Records, this. And the secretaries were like your mother. They go, hi, honey. I said, well, listen, can I meet so-and-so, the A&R guy? Oh, what was his name? Steve Love was one of them.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, honey, come by next Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And here you come schlepping in there with the reel-to-reel, okay, with the spacers in between. What they used to call it?
Yeah.
To separate the songs.
The leader tape.
The leader tape. So we go in there, And we'd sit there, guys, guys would have like hookah lamps. The lights were low, wearing like an old guy, like wearing a Nehru.
Yeah.
Just grew his sideburns down. Yeah. Right. Hey, man, what's groovy? I said, yeah, everything's good. So all of a sudden they go, well, let's hear what you have, man. And they put the reel-to-reel on their TIAC, and they'd be listening and looking at you, smiling, and then go to the next song. Yeah, that's pretty good, man. Wow. So what's going on? Oh, yeah. So, hey, man, pretty good. I don't feel tracks, man. So like 5 songs, you'd be out of there in like 3 minutes. Because they fast forward, like, and you hear it go, the leader tape at the end, you'd hear it go. But that was the record business. But the idea was, I remember walking into RCA or Columbia, and it was just so amazing. I said, wow, this is like the Holy Grail. This is the record business, Black Rock. I mean, this is the record business. And you see all those big light boxes of like, Robert Goulet, Chicago, or whatever. And it was just real clean, big lobbies. There was something very exciting about that. Now people just do records at home. There's something about the business that was fun. Yeah. Like Freddie DeCipio. Remember Freddie DeCipio?
Freddie DeCipio. Do we know him, Joey?
And Ron Kyle.
Well, I heard from him today. It's Ron's birthday today. Did you know that? Really?
It is?
Yeah. So give him a call.
I will.
He's great. All those guys, that was the Philly mob.
Yeah, they're great.
Well, Freddie was my manager for about a week and a half. He and Cal Rudman and all those guys. I'm still friends with Joe.
How about Matty Humdinger Singer?
Yeah, what a guy.
He died having a rub down over at the Philly Athletic Club where we'd go there and he said, come on, I'll give you a rub down, and he'd have these people beating with leaves.
Yeah. Matty Humdinger Singer. And he was like old when I came to vaping around. He goes, yeah, I remember when I broke Frankie Lane's record. And Frankie was known to be very frugal. And he goes, yeah, I made it #1. He gave me a case of Campbell's soup. They just picked up in Camden or something like that. So, but I remember, so I had to go on the road. And Ben used to go, like this was during the Staying Alive era when I had big hits and stuff. And so Ben Scotty would I went on a radio tour with Ben Scotty. I got to tell you, and I've never been the same since. It was the most fun because, he's like a jock. Ben, we're here with T, babe. He's like Vince Lombardi, you know what I'm saying? So we're out there. He knows everybody. He was a guy walking in with the envelope, all that stuff. So anyway. I had to do something in Philly and New Jersey, and Ben couldn't go. So Fred DeCipio has this guy. His name was Mike. He had to be, seriously, 6'5", 340, Italian guy. Like, yeah, how you doing? Like South Philly. His arms are bigger than my thighs. I said, well, how about the crowd? He goes, yeah, don't worry about the crowd. I got it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, whoa. But he was like Joe Guido, but he was a monster. He was like Howie Long. I'm big, but he'd roll his sleeves up, with like Sons of Italy tattoo. Just like, and people were, I couldn't get laid. No one would come near me. This guy was like, it was like the Jolly Green Giant, and Fred DeCipio, but he was great, man. They were characters. Joe Isbro.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
They were just characters. But that's what made, to me, I think the music business is very sterile now.
Well, Joey and I were both in a film, a documentary about the payola in the...
Wait. I think I saw that in Wildwood. That's right.
Wages of Spin, it was called.
I saw it. I was in Wildwood, New Jersey. There was a film festival, and that's where I saw Ron Kyle.
Mm-hmm. And Joey and I were in the second film, which is the one about the 80s, and it ended up being all about, it went all the way up to Ronald Reagan with the payola stuff.
And this talks with Dick Clark, right? Dick Clark's all through it.
Well, that's from the early days. That's from 1960-ish. But we're talking in the 80s.
Oh, they did another. They did 2 of them?
They've done 2 so far.
The one I saw was the one like with Dick Clark.
Yeah, that's the first one. That was the first one.
Let's put this in frame. Joe Isbro was a Marine, a U.S. Marine.
Yes, he was, a Nam. That's right.
And also, he used to hunt on my property in Bluebell, Pennsylvania.
Really?
With Frankie Sciarra. So, I know all these guys very well.
You know them all.
Well, yeah, because I dealt with them every day. But, you had to learn the people to know the industry. That was the deal. Now you don't need to know the people. You can't even.
No.
It's the relationship patterns are so different now. When someone learns an industry now, it's usually by Google.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, it's electronic. Now, there's nothing wrong with being electronic, but
we're doing it now. But I mean, there's
the
human touch has kind of gone a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a story about Ben that's pretty good. He may even watch this. Ben was a great friend of mine, and I worked when they were in Santa Monica. They had a lot of things. They had Baywatch.
On Pico. That's where I did my album, on Santa Monica.
Yeah, I know. That's where I know you from. I know you from them. That's what I was trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And Tony was kind of inactive, and his brother Freddie was handling all the money, and so was Ben's mother was involved too. They had the studio.
Johnny Musso.
Well, Johnny was with everybody. So
Stan Madress.
There's every name you could think of. Rick Schiotti, Sidoti. I know them all. Them all.
Nick
I have.
Testa, yeah.
If I remembered anything, it would be I would have to say that I'm a good witness for crime, but I don't remember anything when someone comes and asks me to do it in a book. I remember nothing.
I don't know anything. Ben told me a story. Ben was very, very tough. They both are very, very tough.
Well, he was called the Bear.
Yeah, he was Freddie was the Bear. And do you remember Rick Caceres?
Yeah, of course.
He was always with him. That was his buddy from the Chicago Bears, and he was Luca Brasi in the football uniform, basically. So Ben told me sometimes he got into it with Jerry Weintraub, and no one wanted to mess with Ben. I mean, he was a character. He was so much fun though to go on tour with, because man, we used to just
both brothers were football players. He and Tony,
right? Yeah,
and they were both pretty strong. I would say that Ben had the most. He was the most personable. But Tony was more business,
yeah.
And at 20th Century Fox, when I was there, they were pretty much wired with 20th Century Fox before MGM.
Yeah.
And then I lived with Bob Marcucci, who handled Rhoda Barrett. So all these names. I mean, we're mentioning a lot of names. People watching this.
Looked nothing like Ray Sharkey in The Idolmaker at all.
No, but it was his film. Story of his life.
It was good though. It was good. Frankie App. My documentary. Matter of fact, I just got the news today. It's going to come out sometime in January on Amazon Prime, which I'm really. So it's a documentary on my life called Stallone, Frank. That is okay.
Yeah.
And everyone, you name it, is in this movie. Frankie Avalon's in it. Geraldo Herrera, my brother Arnold, Schwarzenegger, John Oates, Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi. Everybody's in this movie, and it's really interesting because, the movie is really about Russ Reagan, who signed me to Polydor Records. And so it's really, I wasn't involved. I knew all the people. I said, hey, you want to be in my documentary? And they were very kind about it. But I wasn't really there when they were like talking about me, because I didn't really want to do that. I mean, if you think I'm an asshole, just put it in the movie, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was really, really touched by it. We've won a lot of film festivals for best
cool
feature-length documentary. So I kind of told the story that I said everyone else has told my life story but me. So this is it. This goes back to Philly. This goes back to what we're talking about now. Like, everyone wanted to be the Beatles. That was it. Bad English accents.
Wait, there was a little war. Don't forget, the Beach Boys were still the number one act, and on the same label, I might add. Yeah. Plus, you got also Four Seasons. They were right in the ballgame.
They were
but the Beatles were the entry to everybody from England.
The Four Seasons were like my parents' age. You know what I mean? I see Frankie now. Frankie's like 87 years old. I mean, I see him, but they were older though. I mean, they were like grown up with kids when Sherry came out. I think those guys are like in their mid 30s and had kids already. We were. You
know the story about Joey and Sherry, don't you?
No.
He's the guy that locked himself in the studio and played Sherry 100 times.
Not 100 times, 4 hours.
4 hours straight. And,
did Bob Gaudio write that or no? He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He did.
Yeah. And Bob Crew. Yeah. And Joey got into a big trouble because of doing that. And they depicted Joey in the movie and in the Broadway show as a black guy because Black Lives Matter. You know?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the Four Seasons, right?
Yes.
But let me ask you something. But who did you play it for, Joe? Did you you played it on the air, right?
On the air.
On the show. Because that was a huge record.
I made it a hit.
It was a huge record. Yeah.
You needed a disc jockey to play the record, remember? That was how payola started.
Yes.
Whatever happened to Joe Niagara, the Rockin' Bird?
He passed away.
Well, what happened to anybody? I mean, everybody got old and died, or else everybody got old and retired. You know, that's what happens to all of us.
Yeah, they're all gone.
You know, I mean, you can sit here all day and do the obits.
Yeah. Do you remember a club? I'm sure you used to do it. Do you remember a club, the Anchorage on East River Drive in Philadelphia? A lot of the DJs used to hang there, and I'd play there with my band. Mm-hmm. And do you remember Jeans on the Boulevard?
Yeah, and you never made the RDA club, did you? At Palumbo's.
I didn't. No, the CR club. No, I was too young at that point.
And also, there was another place called Jimmy's Milano, which was another. There were a lot of these places. Downey's, the steakhouse, which after they redid the waterfront. You know, I mean, Philly's a legendary city because we have our. I think there was a Cracked Bell there that we hear about once in a while.
But you know, it's funny, Joe. I went back before all this Black Lives Matter and riots went in, and I got to tell you, it's really kind of dead. I mean, I remember it as being a lively city, Chestnut Street, Stanley Green's Music City. It was a bustling kind of cool town. They had Sansom Street with all the head shops and stuff. Yeah. It's kind of now when you see Chestnut Street, it's kind of blocked off. It's kind of boring. I used to play at the Second Fret all the time. I used to play all those places, the Gilded Cage. It's all kind of gone. It's like all the things, the Electric Factory, Manny Rubens, the Trauma. It was a kind of happening town. It was quite. I mean, I got to say, I was born.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, not only a happening town, it was a music center.
Yes, it was.
Motown, Detroit, Philadelphia, Philly Sound,
Gamble and Huff.
Yes, I mean, come on. It's the music. It's the music capital. Plus, the show that made everybody aware of rock and roll was Bandstand.
Yeah,
and that came from. And that was Walnuts. That was on Walnut Street. But what are you doing now? What are you doing now?
What I'm doing now, other than sitting around my house while everything closes, what I'm doing now is basically, no one's playing music. I mean, the movie business shut down. I mean, I've done 76 films, and I just got offered to do a guest star in a TV series. I really don't want to do it because my brother was telling me now they have political correctness type patrols on the sets.
Yes.
You can't do this. You can't do it. And you got to wear a mask. I said, you know what? I saved my money. I don't really need this bullshit myself. And I don't want to sit there because these aren't my kind of people. And I'm not a radical person. I'm just a patriot. I mean, I love my country. I respect the office and stuff. They're radical. I'm not radical. I mean, we hear Rob Reiner talk. That sounds like a maniac to me. I mean, because I don't believe you should tear statues down, beat people up, loot their stores. I went today to the homeopathic pharmacy, which I've been going to for many, many years. You couldn't find a more peaceful place in the world. Homeopathic pharmacy. Been there 75 years. They destroyed it.
Is that a gay thing?
What?
Homeopathic?
No. It's not in West LA. No.
No, you know what? You got to stop this. I mean, you're sleeping with that Trump doll.
I love that Trump doll.
Yeah, bring it out and play it for us. Let's
hear it.
Yeah. This is Frank Stallone. Now, I'm Joey Reynolds, and I approve of this. Go ahead.
From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. ISIS has spread like cancer. Another mess I inherited. When you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice.
But I will tell you, I know him because I used to play. He's very good friends with my brother. He calls my brother all the time. But I used to play I played Trump casinos, Plaza, in Atlantic City. And I found him. People think he's a big guy. He's like 6'3". He's not a small guy. And
well, that's because his hair is 4 feet tall.
His hair is 4 feet, but he definitely can pull the oxygen out of the room. He's one of those guys that is a A-type personality, but I found him very generous and very funny. And he is tough. Believe me, the abuse he's taken, no one could stand up to that. Nobody.
Well, he hands it out pretty well too. It works two ways. I lived with Morton Downey, and he, of course,
I knew Mort. Mort was great.
Well, he was my roommate, and I grew up with him. And then when he got the TV show, he did it from the Trump hotel. Trump's lawyer managed. I know these guys. I mean, I've been around
Trump
a lot of these
people.
people.
Rob Mione is a friend of mine who was Mort's one of the guys he worked with. Rob Mione. He said that Trump actually put them up in the hotel.
Yeah, that's what I said. I stayed there. I stayed there with him.
Yeah.
I came in. I had a TV show in Miami, and I came on and stayed with Mort. And I met him there. Also, he was a good friend. He loved boxing, and he was good friends with Michael King from King World. And then we had the world's best boxer besides Muhammad Ali, who was actually my favorite.
Yeah.
But we had Tyson. And he was good friends with. He was short next to. I'm in the elevator with Tyson's down here and Trump's up here.
Oh, Trump is big. Yeah. Mike's not that tall. Yeah, he's not that.
It was a circus act to watch.
But Donald loved it.
So he hit him in the belly button. He didn't bite his ear in the belly button.
Jay, Donald loved Mr. President Trump now, but he loved boxing. Listen, he is a take charge guy, and why. I find this funny when people go, he's dumb, really? Well, let me see if you're 35 years old and you get the most expensive piece of real estate, probably in the United States, go, guess what? I'm going to build a gold building here and put my name on the top of it. So he's had to deal with gangsters, union.
Well, that's the thing that I think we need to do is to look at principles over personalities.
Right.
That's the only way out, because he definitely is a personality.
Oh,
and so and Biden looks like he's going to take a nap. Everybody's got their thing.
Everyone's got their thing.
So you got to go by the principles, and they're hard to get to because I don't know what the hell they are anymore. I don't have it in my own family. We've lost boundaries. We've lost all kinds of things in our families.
Joey, the violence I see on TV, I mean, it's heartbreaking to think about.
Yeah.
I used to play in Minnesota all the time. I mean, it was just a nice, all these things, like, what's going on in these cities. Like Wisconsin, I used to do the Italian festival there every year, the Festa Italiana. I used to do it with Al Martino, and all that's gone. I mean, it's just terrifying.
Well,
and listen, I have friends. Look, I was having lunch yesterday with Billy D. Williams, who couldn't be more like liberal, but I don't judge my friends on their politics. That's part of the beauty of the United States. You can fight, vote, and be who you want with, and you can still be friends. You can agree to disagree.
You should be. That's the way it should be.
Well, Jay, Jay Sorensen, you and I
on Facebook.
You and I, Jay, we talk about this all the time. You can't convince another person to change in any way, shape, or form, let alone politics.
Yeah, you're right.
You can't change. I had to be drunk before I got sober.
Yeah, right.
I didn't just say, "Oh, well, let me be sober."
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I was hitting the floor, and I said, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to be down here.
Yeah, anymore.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's just, the divisiveness is kind of a drag. Well, it's the same thing going on in the music business. The music business that you and Jay grew up in and did doesn't even resemble the music business today. It's not even the same business.
No, it's not based on.
When I was nominated, I'm sorry.
But let's celebrate you for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, you were. I said it earlier. You were already a good guy in music. You were a talent.
Mm-hmm.
Before you got your moment.
Yeah.
And because you always had a desire, you had a passion.
I did.
And and you did it well. And you know what? I don't think you've lost that.
No,
I'm hearing you now.
I love it.
I mean, I think you're ready to go in and do a session.
I'm so ready. You know, I mean, I love playing. I mean, I've always liked it. I mean, I've always was a live performer, but I think I was always a better live performer than I was a recording artist. But the thing is, the difference is, I remember when I was nominated for, I mean, I went from destitution basically, and the next year was Staying Alive, was nominated for a Golden Globe, a Grammy. You know, I kind of, what you'll see in the documentary, I'll talk about my Oscar nomination, what happened with that. That was really classic. But I remember when I went to the Golden Globes, I opened the show with my song. And you know who the hosts were back then? Like John Forsythe and like Bonnie Franklin or something. Maybe. And then when I was nominated for the Grammys, I mean, it was very industry oriented. They didn't have like stupid comedians and stuff. It was other artists honoring other artists. You know, I mean, they didn't have Ellen DeGeneres and those people like that on the show. They had other artists, and that's what made it great. Like, you know, when I was there, it was Aerosmith, it's the Police, and everyone dressed nice. I mean, seriously, you didn't see guys with baggy jeans and their cell phone hanging out of their pants with sneakers. People kind of had a respect for the industry and themselves, and it was really beautiful. I mean, now I don't even watch. I tell you, you know, I used to really look forward to. I've been to 2 Academy Awards. I was there when my brother was nominated for Rocky, and I was there at another time when he was a presenter, whatever. So, but I remember when I went there, everyone was dressed. There was Cesar Romero, there was William Holden, everyone. And I know a lot of the old actors. I knew Gene Kelly and people like that. And they conducted themselves in a way because they're from the studio system. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think pretty soon the Oscars are going to be on streaming. I think most of the commercials are going to leave.
I want to not run out of time with this. I want to take this around. I worked for Russ Regan 3 times.
I love Russ.
You don't know that. And Russ passed away a couple of years ago in Palm Springs.
He's in my documentary. Yeah.
Well, good. Russ used to, well, he and I we did a lot of things together. And
wonderful guy.
Russ says famously, and you know this, you know, I'm just telling you the truth. Yeah. He says, I always tell the truth. Russ says, I'm a song man. He's a song man. So now I want you to pick up that guitar behind you. You are a song man.
Yeah, I am a song man.
So let's have a little something here. You got to give us a taste.
Is it tuned? Are we good?
Probably not.
It doesn't matter. He could fake it good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little doodling around, but I have guitars actually in every room in my house. I've got 7 over there. I've got them in my bathroom. Written some of my best songs in the bathroom, to tell you the truth. Well, you know, you're not really performing for anybody. You're just trying to, and you write very fast because you want to get out of there. So, yeah. I mean, it's really weird. I've written a lot of songs and I don't have a home studio. It's just, my brain doesn't, I'd sit there with a cassette player and I just play. If I can find a cassette player, I bought like a Radio Shack out before they closed because I didn't think there could be cassettes anymore. And that's what I do. And I sit there and I said, you know, if it's good enough for the Beatles, it's good enough for me.
John Lennon used to do all his stuff on cassettes, all of it.
On a cassette. I mean, Cat Stevens, James Taylor, no one had home studios. It's like if you had one, you probably don't use it. There's something about that was really great to go into a recording studio. There's something, you know, it's about the difference between working out at home, which is fine, but going to the gym. It's something, okay, I'm leaving the house, I'm going to do something, you know, which is nice. Like you live in Florida, which, Joey, which I love Florida because my brother had a house there, and I think he's thinking of moving back to Palm Beach. But I'm a fisherman. I love to fish. You know, and I'm an outdoors guy like that, and that's some of the best fishing in the world. And
we're not going to let you off the hook. You got to play a little something.
What do you want me to play?
Whatever you feel at the moment. Just do a little bit.
Okay, let's see. Okay, this was number 1 for me. This is the end. Made your choice, and now my chance is over. Save me, darling. I am down, but I am far from over. There you go.
Thanks,
Very
Frank.
nice.
Well,
that's a taste. Now, what about the documentary? How are we going to watch that?
Well, the documentary will be start streaming in January, and we're going to do a big push on it. And hopefully, when it comes out, we do the show again after you've seen it, which would be nice. I mean, you guys will recognize most of the people, and I mean, it's really mostly industry people. Russ is in it, and Russ actually died not too long after. Not too long.
Yeah, I know.
Talked to his wife Cheryl, and who's a wonderful person. So Cheryl, and Danny Aiello is in the movie. He just passed away.
These are all my friends.
All Joey's friends and our friends.
Frankie Avalon.
Well, I said to someone, Frankie's still with us, but I said the other day, I was saying that I've gone to too many funerals, but then I don't want to go to my own.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
I celebrate Russ, for instance, just to pull out a wild card. He was friends with Lou Reisner out of England, and Lou put together a movie, a documentary film called All This in World War II, which was the Beatles, Alan Parsons Project, the music of 10 or 15 stars, the Bee Gees, and it was and dancing to Hitler.
Yeah,
Hitler doing the goose step. I mean, it was a rockumentary. I called it. I did the promo work for him. On the because I was creative director at Fox at the time, and Russ and I worked very well together. And I know Frank. I know that he loved you, and so does Jay Sorensen, and I do too.
You'll see it in the documentary. You'll see how he is. He goes, you know what? He goes, Frank had too many tricks in his bag. His bag of tricks. He goes, the thing is, he could sing anything. He could sing this. He could sing rock. He goes, and you got to have a sound. He goes, Frank has 20 sounds.
Yeah.
But he signed me on my singing and my songwriting. And he was
it was mistaken. Guy. He wanted to give you a polygraph, not polygram.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, or polygrip at this point. But he was. I've been very fortunate. I've met some wonderful people in this business. I'm proud to be a musician who I am. I didn't really have a chance to have that much education, but I learned what I needed to learn and what I wanted to learn. So I did everything I wanted to do. One of the things I missed the most was doing the radio tours. Because I am a total latent jock. I would love to meet. Do you remember Barry Richards out of DC?
Oh, do you mean the Riazar?
Yeah, WWDC. Yeah,
he's the Riazar. That's what he's called. Did you know that?
No. How about we never remember?
He was white and sounded like a black guy.
Yes, he did. And he told my aunt, told my aunt, he goes, I don't know if he'll make it, man. My aunt goes, oh, yeah? Because I was with Valentine then. We hadn't gotten our record deal. And, I was in a little over my head at that point. But
I worked with Barry Richards at Hitmakers with Barry Fidel. So, and John Antune. I know all these guys because it was a craft. We learned everybody's name. I dropped all these names, not because I know to drop the names. It's because I've experienced them. That's what you had to do.
Did you ever know Chuck Southcott?
Yes, of course. He was at KGIL in Los Angeles.
Wonderful guy. But he's like, when I did Rocky, the guys that were doing the fight, you'll like this, being on air, guys. So I'm sitting there and I go, wow, I can't believe it. It's Bill Baldwin and Dennis James. And they were doing the color, Yeah. And so I became friends with Bill. And Bill had that great voice. And he used to be the voice of the Egerberg and Charlie McCarthy, the Mario Alonso show. And I was just enamored by him, the voice. They had those real old, Jim Amici.
Voices, yes.
Yes. And Dennis James, from the Kellogg's commercial. Oh, Dennis James is around forever. He goes, I should never change my name. I'm Italian, Frank. I said, I'd be cool. So I remember I'd sit there like this, and it was so sweet, and I still have these. It was like Bill was amazed that I knew who he was, because and it went like this, and he said, "Well, I got something for you." And every few days he'd bring me these cassettes of his voice doing these radio shows.
Oh my!
Palmolive presents the Mario Lanza Show, and he had that great, and he died not long after, but he was great, man. He was, and Dennis James just couldn't have been nicer, and they were just all like really wonderful guys. Were you in New York, Joey? Were you in New York in the 90s or 80s ever?
Yeah, WNBC. We replaced Howard Stern.
Yeah, we were on in the afternoon.
Didn't I do your show once?
Yeah, you were on WOR with me.
Right. And Les Paul was on the phone, and you let me talk to him, and I couldn't believe it. And he was so cool. I said, "Oh man, it's like a Les Paul." I only have about 20 of his guitars, right? Yeah. That's right, Joey. It was a late night.
Yeah.
It was late night in your studio. And I think I had just done that day. Oh, who was the crazy guy? Joe
Franklin?
Joe Franklin.
Yeah.
I was on the show, and this was weird about Joe Franklin. He had 10 people on the couch. And he goes, and this guy, or so-and-so, is the greatest thing. And the guy go, well, Joe, and by the way, he would cut you off. He goes, that's a terrific guy. And now we got Bozo the Clown over here that's going to pull out his ding-dong.
And now a word from Hoffman Beverages. Yes.
That's right. And he would have, I mean, his place looked like the house on Haunted Hill. I mean, he had more.
Oh, but he knew where everything was. He was like Selford.
You know, it was amazing, though. I mean, he was a nice guy. But nobody reminded me of, he would always cut you off like Ted Mack. And here we have a great act. All right, so now he was one of those guys. But he always had a casting couch of people, like a lot of ne'er-do-wells, and sometimes really famous people. And it just went, now this girl's opening up and off Broadway and like the Dildo Diaries or something. And then he'd have Al Martino.
Yes, right.
And then he'd have, Arthur Tracy, the street singer. But he was absolutely a savant in some ways. I mean, he really knew.
Now, how could the Stallone sisters, Unwaxed, become a monster hit on a podcast? And these stories that you're telling, you could make a fortune too, I think, doing this stuff.
Well, I don't know.
I don't think Frank is not looking for money right now, Jay. I think he's looking just to have something to do that's fun. Meaningful.
With podcasts, I think they're great. I did them in the early days with Adam Carolla was one of the early guys. I mean, Joe Rogan. I mean, these guys make millions of dollars. I mean, Joe Rogan's got a lot of people there.
He does well. But it's podcast is not what you think it is. It's not very profitable. It's okay. I mean, it's great, but it's not as profitable.
No, it's not like having a series on network. But the funny thing is, here's the story of my nieces. My nieces still live at home, and they're gorgeous. And I got to tell you, considering who they are and how they've grown up, they're not involved in drugs. They're not involved. They don't do anything. They're just good. I mean, they're not like angels, but they're great kids. They're respectful. They listen to their mother. The mother says, hey, you may be a famous model, but in this house, wash the dishes. I mean, that's how it's raised. So they came up with this thing Unwaxed, and they go, oh, we got to bring Uncle Frank on it. I said, what am I going to talk about? How many girls I got laid with in the 80s? I mean,
talk about waxing. Talk about unwaxing.
Yeah, that's right. How many girls I waxed in the 80s? But I mean, the thing is, but the thing is, it's cute because it's their generation, and it's like whatever, talking. Jennifer, so it's their.
I'm literally laughing.
Laughing. And, and it's their kind of generation. And it's kind of funny because my brother goes, I love my daughters. They would have lasted like 5 minutes in Philadelphia in the streets. They have no street at all. Nothing. I mean, they're not, but they all got good grades. They're all good kids. So they had this show, and I heard it's doing okay.
Well, here's one that you might not know. Tony Danza is coming back. Norm is, wait a minute. He's coming back with his daughter. And he's going to do a show that's
Who's the Boss?
Take off on Who's the Boss? Yeah, except this generation, and he's now the father and the daughter.
What do you think about that?
Norman Lear is producing it. I think it'll be fine.
It'll be a hit.
It's everybody having fun. I mean, you got to have fun.
I met Norman Lear a few times. He was a fighter pilot or a bombing pilot in World War II.
Yeah.
And I brought that up to him. He goes, how do you know? I said, well, I have a misspent youth. I just learned stuff about that no one gives a shit about but me. He goes, "That's very good. I did fly a B-17. Yeah."
Well, we're going to charge.
He's almost 100 years old. I mean,
Well, he's a definite treasure. We're going to charge you for that Trump ad all during this hour with you.
Yes.
I mean, that's that doll. You got that
under
doll
that.
there.
I have. Well, he's in good company because I got Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and Bela Lugosi, and I also
a bunch of horrors.
Deeper.
All Trump stuff.
Oh,
this baseball bat.
Oh my!
A Trump candy bar. How about this?
A Trump candy bar.
A Trump.
I got. On that note, we're going.
But wait. I'm an equal opportunity lender. I got a Joe Biden doll.
What a guy.
It goes in its pants, but it's okay. That's okay.
I knew
it has automatic bowel release. And the sad thing about this whole thing, Joe's actually a very nice person. He's a very friendly guy. And it's just, this is a tough gig, man. You have to have like a constitution like Mother Cabrini. You know what I mean? It's not for the faint-hearted. I wouldn't want it.
No.
I don't think we're looking at anybody who's got a lot of smarts running for that job.
It's not that. Yeah, it's a tough.
It's a tough job.
It is a tough job. I mean, I would. Who grows up like Bill Clinton goes? I always wanted to be president. Who at 13 says, "Hey, man, I'd like to be president of the United States"? I mean, it's like an autocrat. I don't know what kind of person does that. I mean, I wanted to be. Well, I guess it was considered weird too. I mean, I grew up in an Italian household where everyone had a broken accent, And I remember going to my Aunt Nancy's house on Missouri Avenue because I grew up in Maryland and Missouri, of course, Maryland, D.C., and on Missouri Avenue. And that's when Elvis Presley was on TV first time. And, of course, I'd heard the rumblings. I was 6 years old. I'm sitting there with my cousin Eddie and all my cousins. And I thought the TV screen was really big. It was like 12 inches, maybe like this,
Yeah.
It was like a month's or something like that. And I saw him come on, and my relatives are going, "Hey, Frank, che fai?" Speaking Italian, they're looking at this maniac. They're into Julius LaRosa, and all of a sudden you see this guy come out with the floppy hair and the greasy sideburns, unbelievably good looking. And they're going, Franco, allora, eto face belle. And they're sitting there talking. And we're sitting there, my cousin's going, "Oh, my God."
Yeah.
Just like this, I said, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Yep.
I was the same way with the Beatles. My grandmother sat there with her ears on her head. I just like this, covered.
Same thing with me, Jay. And I knew at 6 years old, this is what I wanted to be. And it's always what I wanted to be. I always wanted to be in a singer or a rock band or right. So I always wanted to be. And when I saw the Beatles the first time, that was it. That was the nail in the coffin. There was no turning back. And my mother looked at my father. She goes, "We've lost him. You know that." It was over. There was I didn't want to be a fireman. I didn't want to be a cop. I didn't want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a rock star.
Well, isn't it interesting? I didn't want to be much. And you know what? It's working out fine.
Yeah. but I wanted to grow up and be like Joey.
But Joe, when did you start? When did you and Jay? Where did you start in radio? Where?
Down at the Jersey Shore in Toms River, and I ended up working with Joey at WNBC in the '80s. And
that's not where you started. I found you in a club playing records.
I was spinning records in a club, and and I started doing the beats, and it was early disco before disco was disco.
Were you from Jersey, Jay?
Oh yeah. I grew up at the Jersey Shore. Yeah.
Oh really? The Jersey Shore was the best. I played the Bay Shores, Dunes, all that shit. But now, Joey, where did you start originally?
Well, I guess when I was in television, when I won a contest that I rigged, and I was in high school.
Where in L.A.? L.A. or where?
Buffalo.
Oh, Buffalo, New York. Okay.
Yeah, that was it. That was the beginning, and I'm going back.
Buffalo people. I have quite a few friends from Buffalo. But, Buffalo was a big Italian section, a big Irish and Italian section. My friend, the fighter, was from there. Joey Jambra.
My father was a fighter.
He was?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Pinto was the last name.
Really?
It's my real name, yeah. So my father was a fighter.
Yeah, but it was a real fight town, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And
Rocky, Kansas. A lot of world champions. Tommy Paul, John. I also am of a boxing museum, so that's like my other. I'm like kind of Rain Man with that.
Then look my dad up.
Joe.
Yeah, we got to go.
We could talk to you for hours.
Well, I just ran out of Gatorade.
That's it. Now we just use it as a urinal. It'll be okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Like when you drive to work, it's good.
That's it.
Frank, thank you for having me on.
Great, come on. Frank. You're great. You're great. Wonderful. So we're going to see the documentary, and we're going to
documentary. Then we'll come back and talk, because I'm going to do, I do a few podcasts here and there. I get asked a lot. And I said, we'll do it now. So we got like 4 or 5 months. When the documentary hits out good, big, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we did an hour, Jay, without a commercial.
Not one.
Sounds like this is the story of our lives.
No, you did the Gatorade commercial, Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That in.
Yeah. And I have a Yankees cup here. So,
so you guys have a garage full of Gatorade and Yankee cups. Right?
Well, my name is Joey Reynolds, and I approve of this broadcast. Let a smile be your umbrella, but don't get a mouthful of rain.